Hey guys, it's Jake again. I'm back with a deck profile. If y'all seen the Deckathon, you'll saw that my Odd Eyes and Friends, that was probably my main deck and my fun deck to play with. And now with the new support, it's changed, getting a name change to the Dimension Dragons, like in the anime. And so I like the deck a lot. I think that there's a lot of potential in it, and so I hope I can share it with you guys. So let's get into it. First of all, your ace monster, you're running 3 Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. Pendulum scale to pop himself at the end phase and search for any 15 attack or lower pendulum monster. And then monster effect, level 7, does double damage because he's the big guy. Next, we're running 3 Dragon Pit Magician. You'll probably go for him the most because of your high scale. And you ditch a pendulum monster in your hand to pop a back row. Spell or trap. It's very good. Next, we're running 2 Oath Dragon, because he's your recycler of the deck, being able to get back Magicians or Odd Eyes from extra deck or graveyard. Next, we have 2 Xeon K Magicians. The reason I'm doing this is because, with a new pack recently, I'm able to summon easier Rebellion and Raging easier. And his monster effect is also that if my opponent were to activate an effect of a light monster, I can negate it. So he's a very good card, and yeah. 1 Wisdom Eye, because whenever there's a monster in the other pendulum scale that is in Odd Eyes, Perform, Pal, or Magician, you pop him to replace in the extra deck. Replace to put a pendulum monster in the scale. I'm running 1 Acrobat because he has a fun little loop where if he's in the scale, if your monster would be destroyed by a card effect, you summon him, and when he's destroyed by battle, you put him back in. So it's a fun little loop to go around there, and he's a good generic scale too. 1 Noble Dragon Magician, because she is a level 3 who, if you can target an Odd Eyes, and you can summon her, and that Odd Eyes level becomes 4, so you can basically go for a level 7 Synchro. And with her effect, you have to summon a Dragon type. And then if the other material is not a Odd Eyes, she goes to the bottom of the deck. So it's kind of you can reuse her either way. I'm running 1 Timebreaker Magician because in the scale, he protects your pendulum monsters from card effects once per turn. So Raigeki, they just wasted a Raigeki. And the monster effect is if he's pendulum summoned just by himself, his attack is doubled, so he becomes 28. And you can target one of your opponent's monsters, and until I think the end of that turn or the end of the next turn, it's banished. I'm running 1 Dragon Calling Magician. Basically, he just makes your monsters become dragons, both in scale and on the field, which is good for summoning like Raging or something like that. And then finally, we're running 1 Time Gazer Magician because when one of your pendulum monsters attacks, your opponent can activate trap cards. So it's just kind of fun little protection. For the Perform Pals, I'm running 1 Sorcerer. I was running 2, but I'm trying it out at 1 right now. And you basically pop up to 2 cards on the field and add that many Perform Pals to the hand. And the scale effect is if you pendulum summon a Perform Pal, then all of those Perform Pals gain 1,000 attack points, so it just kind of boosts them up. We're running 1 Skullcrabat Joker because it allows you to search for a Magician, Odd Eyes, or a Perform Pal and add it to your hand. I'm running 1 Trump Girl because you'll see it with my extra deck later, but she becomes poly and whatever the other thing is, so you don't even have to use a polymerization. I'm running 1 Dag Daggerman. The reason I'm running 1 Dag Daggerman is, again, you'll see in my extra deck. And also, if he's in the scale, you can re-get your Perform Pals, and his monster effect is the turn he was pendulum summoned, you ditch a monster, a Perform Pal, and draw a card. So he's draw bait as well. Finally, for the end of the Perform Pals, I'm running 2 Second Donkey because he's either a Foolish Burial, but if you have 2 Magicians or Pendulum monsters in the scale at all, he adds that monster to the hand, and it's a Perform Pal. For the rest of the monsters, we have 1 Tuning Magician, because she's probably my favorite tuner, and even though that when she's summoned, I lose 400, and I give my opponent 400 life points, I'm a nice guy. but if there's 2 Magicians in the scales, I bring her back from the grave, so I can reuse her again. And then the last of my monsters is I'm running 1 Odd Eye Saber Dragon. And I really like Odd Eye Saber Dragon because he helps clear the field more. When he destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, I can pop another card. And he's a good generic level 7. Onto my spells, I am running 3 Sky Iris. It lets me search for Odd Eyes cards, and if my monsters if my pendulum zones cannot be touched, because this is protection for them. So it's a very good card. I am running 2 Odd Eyes Fusions. It's just basically a polymerization for dragon monsters. And also, if my opponent controls 2 or more and I control none, I can use Odd Eyes monsters from my extra deck. So it's a very good card. You can choose to run poly, but it's up to you. 2 Summoner's Art, so it's faster to get my Dragon Pit to hand, and 1 Pendulum Call to ditch a monster to get 2 Magicians to your hand, and until the end of your opponent's turn, those cards cannot be destroyed by card effects. Finally, I'm running Terraforming to get Sky Iris to hand quicker, 1 Raigeki to blow up fields, and I am running a Phantom Knights of Launch because in the Dimension Dragons to rank up Dark Rebellion. So that's why I'm running it, and that's it for my spells. On my traps is just generic Solemn Warning, Bottomless Trap Hole, 1 Storming Mirror Force, and then 2 Strikes. Onto my extra deck. My extra deck is going to include, of course, dragons. And first of all, we have Rune's Pendulum Dragon. Since all your a majority of the deck is spellcasters, it's easy to summon him, but I also summon him with Trump Girl. And if you used a Pendulum summoned monster that turn to fusion summon him, he's unaffected by card effects. And depending on the level of the Magician or spellcaster, he can attack up to that many times. So if it's a 4 or lower, he can attack your opponent's monsters twice, and if it was 5 or higher, he can attack 3 of your opponent's monsters. Next, I'm running Beast Eyes Pendulum Dragon, because he is your contact fusion and easiest to summon, and whenever he destroys an opponent's monster by battle, depending on however much attack of the beast used to summon him, your opponent takes that much burn damage. And I am also running Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I think this is a really cool card because it's a Utopia Beyond, but it goes beyond that and negates their activated effects on the field if their attacks are 0. And also, if he does not destroy the monster by battle that he attacks, it's banished. So it's a Beyond and like Blue Eyes Twin Burst combined. To finish up my fusions, I have 1 Vortex Dragon. To the turn he's summoned, he's a Compulse. And for attack position monsters, and whenever your opponent activates any card effects, monster, spell, or traps, and I have face-up cards in my extra deck, I can shuffle 1 into the deck to negate and destroy that card. And I am running 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because when he's summoned, if my opponent has a special summoned monster, he gains that much attack. I can target a level 5 or higher monster my opponent controls, his name and effect copy that monster's, and whenever he is destroyed, he can destroy all special summoned monsters my opponent controls. Onto my Synchros. I am running 1 Meteor Burst Dragon. The turn he summoned, the Synchro summoned, I can get a monster from my scale and summon it as a monster. And also, just during the battle phase, my opponent cannot activate cards like monster effects. So he kind of stalls your opponent for a little bit. I am running 1 Clear Wing Synchro Dragon because when a monster effect would target a level 5 or higher monster you control, you can negate it and destroy that monster and he gains the attack. And also if a level 5 or higher monster on the field activates its effect, you can also negate and destroy that monster and he gains the attack. And then of course you have his better form, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, who his effect is when any monster activates their effects, he negates it, destroys it, and he gains the attack. And if he battles a level 5 or higher monster, he gains that monster's attack. So he basically just gets over anything big for you. To finish up my Synchros, I am running one Enlightenment Paladin. If I Synchro summon this card using a Pendulum Magician, I get to add a spell card from my grave back to hand. So reuse that Pendulum Call, reuse that Raigeki, whatever, and it just helps you out. And if she destroys a monster by battle, I can make my opponent take however much attack that monster had as burn damage. And finally, I have Nirvana Hi Paladin. His Pendulum effect is basically one of my Pendulum monsters attacks your monsters. I take no battle damage, my monster's not destroyed, but all of your opponent's monsters lose however much the monster's attack I had. And then his monster effect is the turn he's Synchro summoned, which you can Synchro summon him using a tuner and a Pendulum summoned Pendulum monster as that tuner. He gains the effect of adding any card from grave back to hand. So you can reuse anything. Get rid of a monster, get it back spell, get it back trap, whatever. And whenever he destroys an opponent's monster by battle, he gets to cut your opponent's life points in half. So he's a very good, strong card. Finally, the last of my extra deck is going to be Xyz. So we have Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Detach 2, cut your opponent's attack in half, he gains rest. The reason I'm running the rank up is Dark Requiem, because you detach a material, your opponent's monster loses all of its attack and he gains it all. And if they were to activate a monster effect, I can detach again and special summon a Xyz monster back from the graveyard. So I can basically make your opponent 0 and then bring back my Rebellion. I am running one Absolute. He's like a better version of Utopia for this deck, which is if anyone attacks, I negate the attack and then special summon an Odd Eyes from the graveyard. And if he is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, I can special summon any Odd Eyes from my extra deck, basically ignoring their summoning conditions. So it's a good card. And finally, for the last two, I am running Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon and Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. What Rebellion, they both have the same Pendulum effect, which is put any monster that's a Pendulum monster in the scale with it. And Rebellion's monster effect is also, they both have the thing of if you use an Xyz Dragon or Xyz monster as material, then they gain the effect. So Rebellion's effect is for every level 7 or lower monster your opponent controls, they take 1,000 points of damage for each, and he attacks 3 times. And for Raging, it is you detach a unit, destroy all cards your opponent controls, he gains 200 attack for each card that was destroyed, and he attacks twice. So the reason I'm running both is I feel like they're both really good cards. He may be a little better than him, but it just depends on the situation that you put in. And so that is my deck profile. It has changed a lot since, of course, you've last seen it, but I'm really hoping that y'all really enjoyed this deck profile, and I gave y'all some either ideas or inspiration for anything. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.